Welcome back to Panda Audiobooks. You are listening to Pursuit of the Truth by Jen, covering chapters 106 through 110. The casual phase of the Han Mountain trial is over. As Su Ming ascends higher, the spiritual pressure begins to crush the weak, forcing them to retreat or collapse. But for a berserker who has survived the destruction of his home, this pressure is only fuel for the fire. Witness as Grandmaster Mo shocks the city by outperforming the elite disciples of the three tribes. The higher the climb, the deeper the secrets. Chapter 106: The Arrival of the Fallen Berserker. The chains of mist surrounded Baitu's body in multiple layers. They formed a pattern of a ripple in the sky and started spreading outwards. As they did so, an incredibly mighty presence spread out. Verdant Berserk Chains is the strongest berserker art in Black Mountain Tribe. It has the same destructive force as the execution of the three evils of Dark Mountain Tribe did in the past, but its power is much more stable. If the art is cast by a berserker in the Transcendence realm, then the force will be very powerful. Mo Sang said quickly and severely, with a pale face. The elder knew clearly that using this art was the same as sacrificing some of the caster's life. Even he had not managed to force Baitu to the point where he would have to use this art during his battle. The elder knew that this was related to Baitu's personality. He was selfish. He did not care about the lives of his tribe members. Even if they all died, as long as he was still around, Black Mountain Tribe would still prosper and become great in a short period of time. The moment Mo Sang spoke, Baitu, who was surrounded by the numerous chains of mist, let out a roar as his face twisted into a ferocious expression. He swung his right hand downwards, pointing towards the giant culmination of the wings of the moon that was hiding Su Ming within. The countless chains of mist let out a buzzing sound and charged towards the giant wings of the moon. As they moved forward, the verdant chains grew larger, until they seemed to have become a straight line, rapidly charging towards the wings of the moon that was also approaching it. They traveled so quickly that they seemed to have fused with the sky and earth. In the blink of an eye, the verdant chains appeared around the giant wings of the moon and surrounded it, tying up the entire body of the giant wings of the moon. D. Baitu let out a vicious, shrill cry. He lifted both his hands as if about to take control of the verdant chains. He clapped his hands together in one swift motion. As the verdant chains that had tied up the wings of the moon rumbled, they tightened their grip. Su Ming's power was not enough, and he did not have any berserker arts that could pose a threat towards those in the Transcendence realm. He only had the sturdy body belonging to the numerous wings of the moon around him. As the verdant chains tightened their grip, the wings of the moon started struggling madly under his control. When both sides clashed against each other, a part of the verdant chains broke, but the wings of the moon also jolted, and some red vapor rose into the sky, a clear sign that the moment they had contact, signs of death appeared on the wings of the moon. As the wings of the moon continued struggling, the verdant chains tightened their grip even more. Every single time a rumble sounded, a part of the verdant chains broke apart, and a large amount of red vapor would appear from the wings of the moon, making them pay a large price. Veins popped out on Baitu's face. There were still 3 inches before he could finish closing his hands together. Yet these 3 inches were monstrously difficult for him to breach. As his hands trembled, he bit his tongue and coughed out blood. That blood turned into 2 blood-red arms that fused into the arms on his body, granting him strength so that he could close the distance between the 3 inches to a mere 1 inch. At the same time, lines of blood appeared on the verdant chains. The strength of its hold became stronger instantly. With a blast, the chains sank into the body of the wings of the moon, causing the amount of red vapor coming from its body to increase by several fold. Since Su Ming stood in the wings of the moon, his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth started bleeding, and he felt a sharp pain traveling into his mind. It was the pain felt by the numerous wings of the moon as they cried out, "Just die already!" Baitu's hair was a mess as he continued increasing his strength without regard for consequences. Mo Sang, who was standing in the distance, did not hesitate and flew towards him with his tired body. He swung both his hands, and the dark python that was covered in injuries materialized behind his back. It opened its mouth and let out a huge roar, charging towards Baitu with the elder. The elder was already gravely wounded. There were 7 bone needles in his body from when he had sacrificed some of his life. It was already very difficult for him to continue fighting. If Su Ming had not come, he would have chosen to explode his blood so that he could heavily wound the elder of Black Mountain tribe. However, he also knew that the elder of Black Mountain was cautious of it. That was why he held back, not wanting to force Mo Sang into a corner, but choosing to deplete his strength until Mo Sang would eventually die. Yet there was a chance at that moment. There was a chance where he could heavily wound Bai Tu and give Su Ming a chance. The price was his own death, but the elder had no regrets. The moment Mo Sang rushed out, Su Ming felt a clear wave of sadness from the elder. Red crawled into his eyes. He might have learned how to be stoic, but at that moment, he still became anxious. Because his will was fused together with the culmination of the wings of the moon, his anxiety also made all these wings of the moon to become worked up. The moment the elder rushed towards Bai Tu, the wings of the moon that was being strangled by the verdant chains dispersed, revealing Su Ming standing on the wings of the moon within. As they dissolved, the verdant chains quickly charged towards Su Ming. Yet at that moment, the wings of the moon that had spread out started coughing out small amount of blood. Some of them even exploded, turning into larger amounts of blood. The instant the verdant chains surrounding Su Ming closed in, the wings of the moon gathered up once again with him as the center. However, this time, when they gathered up, they did not turn into the shape of the wings of the moon, but a giant about hundreds of feet in height. That giant's face was faint, and the details on it could not be seen clearly. Yet at the center of its brows was a picture of fire. When the giant appeared, even those verdant chains were absorbed into the giant's body, as if they were part of the giant to begin with. Upon its appearance, the sky and earth roared. The 5 summits in Dark Mountain shook. Even the land trembled continuously. Within the forest, on a dried-up big tree, there was a small monkey that was entirely covered in red fur. It held onto the branch tightly, anxiety and fear filling its face. It kept on screeching, but it did not dare to travel upwards. The light from the moon became much brighter when the giant appeared. It was as if the earth had turned into a red netherworld as the red from the moon fell on the land. The moonlight that became much brighter gathered on the giant, and with a blast, turned into a silver sea of fire. It spread out, and it looked like there was a humongous fire beast behind the giant. The giant opened its eyes in a swift motion. The shadow of the blood-red moon was in its eyes. It moved towards Bai Tu. Its footsteps were huge, managing to reach Bai Tu before the elder. Then, it threw a punch forward. The silver sea of fire behind it rolled forward, swooping in on Bai Tu with the fist. Bai Tu did not retreat. Instead, he let out a growl with a fierce look on his face. Verdant Berserk chains explosion. The moment the words were spoken, the giant with Su Ming jolted. Booming sounds came from within its body. It belonged to the verdant chains stuck in its body. They exploded, turning into wisps of verdant mist that looked as if they were going to turn into the verdant chains once again and tie up the giant. The moment the verdant chains exploded, the giant shuddered. A large amount of red mist rose into the air, and its body started shrinking rapidly. Yet the fist it threw out continued traveling forth. Under the giant's unwavering gaze and its disregard for the injuries on its body, it thrust its fist forth without hesitation. Bai Tu's expression changed and he quickly retreated. He brought both his hands forward and cast some unknown berserker art. In an instant, his arms turned into dried-up wood and acted as a shield for him. A loud crash traveled through the air. The giant punched the drywood barrier formed by Bai Tu's hands. As the sound rang out, Bai Tu's body shook viciously, and he coughed out blood. His arms immediately exploded and turned into flesh and blood that scattered everywhere as his body tumbled backwards. A flash passed through the giant's eyes. It seemed like it was hard for it to continue onward as well, with the injuries it had sustained when the verdant chains exploded. But it continued anyway. Just as it was about to give chase, Bai Tu, who had been flung away, let out a piercing scream, his ears, nose, mouth, and ears bleeding. Soon, the large amount of green wisps of mist that were about to turn into chains on the giant immediately gave up on condensing. They rushed instead to Bai Tu with a speed that surpassed Su Ming's. The wisps of green mist crawled into every part of Bai Tu's body, and before Su Ming and the elder's eyes, Bai Tu's body started recovering at a shocking speed. In an instant, his arms grew back, his face returned to a healthy shade of red, as if he had completely returned to the peak of his condition. Using verdant berserk chains is the same as sacrificing your own life. He's using his life to heal his wounds, but he can only use it once. What's more, he won't be able to use the verdant berserk chains again for some time, the elder immediately said, his eyes narrowed. The moment the elder spoke, a glint appeared in Baitu's eyes. His face may have seemed to have returned to a healthy shade of color, but there was a dull look in his eyes. Yet his anger had reached its peak. He was a berserker in the transcendence realm, but was forced to sacrifice his life to recover. To him, that was unacceptable. He did not even look at Mo Sang, but stared at the giant which contained Su Ming. You can now die without regrets for forcing me to this extent. But this fight is over. You and your elder will certainly die here today. Mo Sang, when I fought against you, I only used a part of my fallen berserker art. Now, I'll let you witness the fallen berserker art cast by a powerful berserker in the transcendence realm. Baitu was wary of Su Ming. Unless he deemed it absolutely necessary, he did not want to cast this fallen berserker art. It would inflict great harm to his own self, and he had to cast it when he was completely uninjured. If he cast it while he was injured, he would not be able to bear the consequences. The giant lifted its feet and was about to close in when Baitu spread his arms wide open and knelt towards the north in midair. There was a fanatic look on his face as he roared at the sky. The fallen berserker within the sky and earth, please honor your promise and descend upon the world. The moment the words were shouted out, the blood-red moon in the sky dimmed. The stars in the sky also became darker at the same instant. An indescribable presence started gathering together from the sky and earth. There was silence, but Su Ming's heart began to race in his chest. His body seemed to have frozen when that presence started gathering together. Mo Sang's face was pale. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth as if he couldn't withstand the pressure brought by the presence as it gathered. Who is that bothered mine slumber? Who is that summoned mine berserker soul? A voice that reverberated through Su Ming and the elder's minds suddenly rang out. That voice sounded old and aged by time, morose, and it made all those who heard it horrified. Chapter 107: The Elder's Secret. Everything in the world was frozen still, even the wind stopped in the air. There was only deathly stillness on the earth. Baitu's body trembled. He knelt towards the north as he worshipped the sky. Your servant, Baitu, summoned you here. I have prepared enough life, and I offer these two as a sacrifice. O fallen god of berserkers of the north, please descend upon us. As Baitu spoke, that formless presence began gathering and turning into a faded outline of a person before him. It was a person, one whose face could not be seen clearly. In fact, if no one looked properly, then they would find it hard to see the moment that semi-transparent person appeared. The elder shuddered and his breathing became rapid. Su Ming was behaving the same way within the giant. He could not move his body. From the semi-transparent figure, he could feel a power that surpassed Baitu's by leaps and bounds. He had a final scattering blood with him, but scattering blood was like a double-edged sword. If it was crushed and the powder touched the wounds on his body, then it was the same as destroying himself. That was why every time Su Ming used it, he was incredibly careful with it. It was his ultimate move. He did not know whether this item was useful against powerful berserkers in the transcendence realm, but he had to try. He had a chance, but the elder was by his side, and Baitu was rapidly healing all his wounds. If Su Ming used it at the wrong time, and the powder was flung aside, then there was a high chance it would affect him and the elder. The semi-transparent figure stood before the kneeling Baitu. It raised its right hand and touched Baitu's forehead. Baitu immediately trembled viciously and pain appeared on his face, but he bore through it and did not scream out. A small hole appeared at the center of his brows, and a large amount of blood gushed out, which was absorbed by the semi-transparent figure. Very soon, that figure was no longer semi-transparent, but turned into a blood-red color. There was a thread of blood spinning within its body, and it gradually formed the outline of a part of a finger on its right hand. Baitu's body withered quickly. It was as if in the span of a few breaths, he would turn into mere bones. Not enough. The only red was on the small fragment of the figure's finger. The other parts of the person were still in the semi-transparent state. It spoke unhurriedly within the minds of the three people in the air. Baitu seemed to have known a long time ago that the blood would not be enough. He made a grabbing motion with both hands, and as the earth shook, Dark Mountain became duller in an instant. All of the snow on the mountain turned black and spread out. The trees in the forest at the foot of the mountain crumbled into ashes. White mist crawled out from all corners of the earth and rushed towards Baitu. The darkness in the forest at the foot of the mountain continued spreading. As it did so, all the living creatures that were enveloped within died and turned into white mist that rose into the air. The little monkey in the tree quickly ran away in panic and managed to avoid being captured by the darkness spreading outwards. The white mist continued rising into the air and fused into Baitu's body, causing his withered body to recover once again. Yet at the same time, more blood gushed out from the hole at the center of his brows, which was absorbed by the person before him. This frightening sight was seen by both Su Ming and the elder, but they could not stop it. They could not even move their bodies. It is still not sufficient. One of the fingers on the person's right hand turned completely red. This is all I can offer. Northern god of berserkers, please descend. Baitu trembled. He could not move, and the injuries that had recovered just moments ago tore open once again. The sacrifice this time is not sufficient. I can only let one finger fall, the person said languidly. He lifted the only finger that was stained red and pointed towards the sky. The weather immediately changed. A large amount of black clouds started gathering, and once they covered half of the sky, a large thunderbolt formed. At the same time, a black flash of lightning shot down from the black clouds in the blink of an eye. That black lightning exuded evil and an air of gruesomeness. It was as if death was descending as it fell. The moment the lightning shot down from the sky, Su Ming's frozen body suddenly felt warmth from the black debris that had been quiet for a long time. The warmth fused into Su Ming's body, and as cracking sounds rebounded, he found that he could move. He did not have time to think. The moment the bolt of lightning was about to fall on his person, he took one step forward. Baitu was unable to move, and his body was covered in injuries at the moment. Su Ming brought out scattering blood and closed in on Baitu, reaching out his right hand from the giant's body and hurled the pill at him. The moment he flung scattering blood, the bolt of lightning descended on the giant. He could not dodge it. He clenched his right fist and threw a punch towards that lightning. From a distance, this sight was akin to a giant glaring at the sky, and as the heavens sent a bolt of lightning downwards, it was moving forth to fight against the heavens. The faded figure with that one red finger let out a light sound of puzzlement. While looking at Su Ming, its body gradually disappeared as if it could not stay for too long. As it disappeared, the elder also regained his mobility. His face was filled with anxiety, watching the giant which contained Su Ming and the black bolt of lightning close in on each other in mid-air. At the same moment, that scattering blood was also closing in on Baitu at an incredible speed. Baitu did not know what that was. He let out a cold laugh and swung his right hand. A huge gust of wind immediately blew it away, but the moment it touched that scattering blood, the pill exploded due to Su Ming embedding his qi within it earlier, causing the scattering blood to turn into powder and scatter into red mist that charged towards Baitu. Even if some it was dispersed by Baitu, a large amount still landed on his body and crawled into his injuries as if they wanted to burn his blood. Child's play. Baitu's expression changed, and he circulated the qi in his body as he let out a cold bark of laughter. With some unknown method, the burning sensation within his body was extinguished, but his face became paler because of that. When the black lightning that exuded evil and gruesomeness appeared, it was like it had turned into a ray of light that brought death upon the world. It charged towards Su Ming and collided with his fist. There was no crashing sound. Everything happened silently. In the elder and Baitu's eyes, they saw the bolt of lightning touch the giant's right arm and, crushing it immediately, turn the arm into a large amount of red mist that spread outwards. At the same time, the giant's body also started shaking furiously. Then from its shoulders, it started crumbling down inch by inch. In the blink of an eye, about an eighth of the giant's body had turned into mist. The lightning pierced through the giant's body. Su Ming. The elder's eyes were bloodshot. Just as he was about to rush over, He saw whatever was remaining of the giant in the air make the red mist spreading outwards from its body tumble backwards and gather up once again. He also saw Su Ming's body hidden away in the small remaining part of the giant as the red mist gathered. When Su Ming threw the punch, he had changed his location within the giant's body. Even so, he was covered in blood, as if he had already reached his end. The black lightning that destroyed most of the giant's body stopped in midair. It was a lot duller now. It changed its direction languidly, but it did not travel towards the elder, but looked like it was going to once again pierce through the giant's body, which seemed to be experiencing some sort of change due to the gathering red mist. Baitu stood in the distance, his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth bleeding. His breathing was rapid. Summoning the fallen god of berserkers required him to offer his life, and the power needed for him to use that black lightning also required him to continuously offer lives taken from the mountain below. He had also wasted some power when he extinguished the fire in his body. The power of the lightning was largely related to his level of cultivation because this power of lightning cast from the one finger was actually a culmination of all his power. The strange fallen god of berserkers changed it, but in the end, it was still largely related to Baitu's power. Why aren't you dead yet? Veins popped out on Baitu's face. The sight of the veins popping up on his withered body looked incredibly frightening. The black lightning no longer looked dull. It changed its direction and was just about to rush towards Su Ming when Mo Sang turned his head back. He looked at the heavily injured dark python that had fought with him until now. The dark python was a materialization of his berserker mark. It had been with him for his entire life. The moment he looked at the dark python too, seemed to have gained intelligence and looked at the elder. The elder did not hesitate. He closed his eyes, and the clothes on his upper body burst apart, revealing his aged body. On his body was a great number of blood veins that had gathered into the mark of the dark python, but at the moment, it melted away. In a second, it was washed away and disappeared from the elder's body. The moment the mark of the dark python disappeared, a blood-red mark of a tooth appeared on the elder's chest, covering his entire body. The tip of the tooth was at the center of the elder's brows. It looked natural, like a real tooth. The moment the mark of the tooth appeared, Baitu's, who was controlling the black bolt of lightning by sacrificing lives of those below to attack Su Ming, expression changed. Astonishment, shock, and disbelief, all of them could be seen on his face. There were far too many things that threw him into disarray this night: the appearance of the blood-red moon, the arrival of the wings of the moon, and the true fire berserker art. Yet all those sights were nothing compared to the sight of the berserker mark on Mo Sang changing to that of a tooth. Impossible. You have 2 berserker marks. That's impossible. Those of the berserker tribe can only have 1 berserker mark in their lives. How could you have 2? Baitu was aghast. He even forgot to control the black bolt of lightning when he saw that scene. He could not believe what he was seeing, but he knew that if news that Mo Sang had 2 berserker marks spread out, then their entire world would be taken by a storm. He had never heard of anyone who possessed 2 berserker marks before. There was no one like that. Even the legendary gods of berserkers only had 1 berserker mark. Mo Sang opened his eyes, his face calm. Once the second berserker mark appeared, he raised his right hand and grabbed onto his chest, then pulled outwards. Immediately, a giant tooth about the height of an adult man appeared in his hand. The tooth looked ghastly, its entire body was letting off a white glow. Once the elder held it in his hand, he leapt forward and stood on top of the dark python's head, which had not disappeared. This is my last resort. I was originally going to use it anyway. There was a look of sadness on the elder's face as he thought. He held up the giant tooth and stabbed it through the head of the dark python underneath his feet. Pain spread across the dark python's face, but it did not move, simply allowing the elder to drive the tooth into its head until it was buried deep. The moment the tooth was completely buried into its head, thunderous roars echoed in the sky, and the dark python's eyes became dull. It died. Yet the moment of its death, when its body quickly withered, from the spot where the tooth was driven into its head, black mist flowed out. As the dark python faded away, a large amount of black mist came out. Within the span of a breath, the dark python completely disappeared from the world along with the tooth. Before the elder was dense, black fog. As it continued to tumble and move around, the head of a ferocious beast with a single horn appeared. That head of the beast looked like it belonged to an evil spirit. There was a black metal hook on its nostrils. It rushed out with an incredibly shocking pressure and a similar presence to that of Transcendence, charging towards Baitu, whose face had changed into that of a panic-stricken one. Chapter 108. Xing. Baitu was terrified. He had never even dreamt about someone possessing 2 Berserker marks among those in the Berserker tribe. Not only was it something unbelievable, it also covered the former prodigy, Mo Sang, with a thick layer of mystery. When Mo Sang's second Berserker mark appeared, the sight of the tooth killing the dark python, which was formed by his first Berserker mark, before materializing into the malicious-looking head of a single-horned beast with a similar presence to Transcendence, also made Baitu take in a sharp breath. His skin crawled, and he immediately lifted both his arms, pointing a finger towards the black bolt of lightning that was originally aimed at Su Ming. The black bolt of lightning immediately changed direction and dashed towards the beast head that was surrounded by black fog. The elder stood in midair with his eyes closed, unmoving. The giant head of the beast behind him howled. The black fog spread around them, casting the sky and earth in a ghastly light. This was the elder's final resort, and also a secret he had kept hidden deep within himself. The head of the beast that was surrounded by the black fog spreading outwards charged towards Baitu, howling in its rush towards the black bolt of lightning that went forward to protect Baitu. The bolt of lightning let out loud thunderous cracks and closed in on the head of the beast. They crashed into each other. Thunderous roars echoed through the sky. The head of the beast let loose horrendous howls as a large amount of the black fog that surrounded it dispersed. The black bolt of lightning stopped before the center of the beast's brows, unable to pierce through. As the head of the beast continued roaring, it continued moving forward, forcing that bolt of lightning to move backwards as if it was met with strong resistance. Baitu's face was pale. His eyes were bloodshot. As of then, he felt like he was faced with the greatest danger in his life. The black bolt of lightning continued retreating, allowing the head of the beast to arrive at a distance less than 1,000 feet away from him. Baitu brought both his hands up, pointing at the center of his brows with one finger, and towards his chest on his already withered body with the other, offering his blood and life once again. His hair, which was originally black, turned instantly white. Dried cracks spread through his face, and his body swayed. That is only a presence similar to Transcendence, it's not true Transcendence. Baitu let out a low growl. As his body started changing, that black bolt of lightning seemed to have replenished its power. A black ray of light that shot into the sky erupted forth from the bolt of lightning, and in an instant, it grew several times in size and pierced the center of the beast's brows. In the distance, the elder trembled and blood flowed out of his mouth. A similar injury appeared at the center of his brows. It looked almost identical to the injury at the center of the beast's brows. That head of the beast roared, and a strange light appeared in its eyes. It did not care about the black bolt of lightning piercing through it, but instead charged forward even as booming noises came from its head. As the black fog quickly dispersed, the black bolt of lightning entered further into its head. Yet the head of the beast did not seem to know any pain and continued moving forward until it was only 300 feet from Baitu from the initial 1,000. At that moment, half of the black bolt of lightning had entered the center of the beast's brows, causing arcs of black lightning to travel through the entire head of the creature, as if it was going to be destroyed at any moment. However, that light from the bolt of lightning also dimmed, like the life that provided its power was no longer enough. Black blood flowed out from Baitu's mouth. He raised his right hand in one swift motion and pressed one finger on his right eye, and the light from his right eye immediately faded away, as if it lost its life, turning white. The moment his right eye turned white, the black bolt of lightning immediately let out a strong black light again, and with a roar, most of the bolt of lightning entered the center of the beast's brows. Yet at that moment, there was only 100 feet between the head of the beast and Baitu. In the distance, Su Ming had his eyes closed. His entire body was surrounded by the blood from the wings of the moon. The blood gradually gathered around him and turned into a strange blood statue. As it gradually formed, a mysterious pressure spread out from the blood statue. Anxiety appeared on Baitu's face at that moment. He raised his right hand and pointed at his right leg. It let out a bang, and his entire right leg exploded. After he offering up his right eye, he was once again offering up a sacrifice. his right leg. The moment his right leg shattered, the head of the beast was 50 feet away from him. Yet that black bolt of lightning also pierced through the center of the beast's brows with a boom and went out from the back of its head. The destructive force from the bolt of lightning caused its eyes to instantly become duller, and its focus to scatter, but it did not stop its charge. It continued rushing towards Bai-Tu 50 feet, 40 feet, 30 feet. As Bai-Tu let out a terrified scream, he disappeared in the blink of an eye. The only thing visible was the head of the beast that had concealed Bai-Tu. It turned into faint wisps of black fog and dissipated into the air. The elder's face was pale. He opened his eyes, and there was an expectant look in his dull eyes. Yet that anticipation turned into despair in a moment. He coughed out blood, and the moment the head of the beast dissipated, it was as if something huge crashed into him. He staggered back and fell on one of the 5 summits on Dark Mountain, struggling to stand. A defiant and excited laughter traveled from where the black fog was dissipating from the head of the beast. It was Bai-Tu's voice. He had not died. At that moment, he had also thought that he would be killed, but when that beast was not even 5 feet away from him, a black light suddenly appeared from Bai-Tu's body. The moment the head of the beast touched the light, it dissipated. "No one can kill me. Mo sang, you may be strong, you may have 2 berserker marks, but you can't kill me." Bai-Tu panted harshly. He was still terrified by what had happened. He knew that if the mysterious man in black had not left behind some power within him, then Bai-Tu would surely have been unable to survive the beast's charge just now. At that moment, he looked pathetic. He had lost an eye, a leg, and his entire body was withered and dried up like a branch. His face was pale, but he still lifted his head and laughed at the sky. "I'll kill him first. I'll let you see him die before your eyes, and then I'll kill you." Bai-Tu panted harshly, lifting his right hand to point at the bolt of lightning that suddenly became larger in the air. The bolt of lightning jolted and slowly turned around. By the looks of it, it was as if it needed to lock onto its target before attacking. That was why it needed to readjust its position each time. Yet the moment the black bolt of lightning readjusted its position and locked onto Su Ming opened his eyes, and the moment he did so, the blood of the wings of the moon circling around him surged forth, and a broken blood statue appeared in between heaven and earth. The blood statue was not big. It was only 40 to 50 feet tall. Su Ming's body was like a mosaic on the blood statue's chest, but it did not materialize because of him. His body only acted as a small conduit, allowing the wings of the moon to gather all their power together through his body, which was how they had become the same level as Bai-Tu during their previous fight. The blood statue exuded an ancient presence. A blood-red light flashed all over its body, but the statue did not have a head. It was broken, and looked as if there was not enough strength for it to appear in its complete form in the sky. Still, even without a head, a terrifying presence surrounded the blood statue. The man portrayed wore armor, and it was also blood-red. It made the man look like was an old battle spirit hanging mid-air. Besides the terrifying presence coming from his body, there was also a devastating air around him, as if he was shouting because he was unwilling to die, and his cries reverberated through the air. In his hands was a giant axe. That axe was also broken, but a killing intent that shook the sky surrounded it. Vague cries from the souls of those who were wronged traveled out from the axe. This was one of the 9 great statues of the god of Berserkers from the Fire Berserker tribe taken from the memories of the wings of the moon. A long time ago, he was once worshipped by an uncountable number of people from the Fire Berserker tribe. He even once fought against the god of Berserkers together with the other 8 statues of the god of Berserkers after they had been granted intelligence by the elder of the Fire Berserker tribe. His head was torn off by the god of Berserkers. He had already died a long time ago. His broken appearance now was an illusion created from the memories of the wings of the moon using their blood of the Fire Berserkers. His name was Xing. Bai-Tu's mouth hung open. There were simply far too many things that caught him off guard today. However, he was not numb towards it yet, because these things were only growing increasingly more shocking. Su Ming's eyes flashed as he stood on the shoulders of the headless and broken statue of the god of Berserkers. The broken god's body took one step forward. The moment its foot landed, it was as if the sky and earth shook. However, Su Ming knew that the shaking was fake. The materialization of the broken god was due to the culmination of the memories of the wings of the moon. Perhaps he truly had had incredible strength, but he was dead. He was just an illusion, and that was why the power he could use was incredibly small. More importantly, the moment the broken god appeared, Su Ming also felt that the broken god was quickly disappearing. He could only remain for the span of a few breaths. After a few breaths, the broken god would disappear, and all the wings of the moon would also die as a price. At that moment, Su Ming would no longer have the power of the wings of the moon, and because he could no longer suppress his injuries, he would also experience backlash. Not only would he be unable to fight against Bai Tu, he would also face serious danger from overexertion. As light flashed in Su Ming's eyes, the ripples caused by the broken god spread out. With just one step, he appeared before the stunned Bai Tu. He lifted the axe in his hands and swung it downwards. At that moment, the black bolt of lightning sped towards the broken god. Bai Tu trembled. The danger he felt right now surpassed that of when he had faced the head of the beast formed by Mo Sang's second Berserker mark. It made him feel terror that stemmed from the very root of his soul. He did not hesitate. He knew clearly that if he hesitated for even a moment, he would die completely and utterly, his body and spirit exterminated. So he pointed at his left leg without hesitation, gritting his teeth. Many blood veins appeared on his body to form the picture of a complete wings of the moon, yet the picture spread out with a bang, causing his blood veins to be unable to gather together. Faced with life and death, Bai Tu had chosen to give up on the Transcendence realm. Even if his level of cultivation would fall due to this, it was still better than dying here. The moment his Berserker mark that signified Transcendence scattered away, the black bolt of lightning let out its strongest black light and closed in on the broken god. Chapter 109, One Flagpole. The bolt of lightning closed in on the broken god, charging at its upper back. The moment it touched, thunderclaps reverberated in the sky, but that broken god did not stop. He was not at all bothered by the black bolt of lightning, even if there were numerous black electrical arcs traveling all over his body. Nevertheless, the blood of the wings of the moon that created the broken god were rapidly disappearing after it was attacked by the bolt of lightning that had gathered all the power Bai Tu had sacrificed from the Transcendence realm. It made the amount of time that the broken god could exist become even shorter. According to Su Ming's calculations, before the axe could even fall down, the statue would disappear. Yet even if that axe only contained a tiny fragment of the power of the former Xing, killing a mere Berserker in the Transcendence realm was nothing. Xing raised the giant battle axe, and countless moaning voices rose from within, as if a large number of angry spirits that had died under this axe ages ago also came into existence. They surrounded the axe as it swung down. No! Despair appeared in Bai Tu's eyes. As the battle axe sunk down, he felt as if the pressure of tens of thousands of mountains fell upon him. He could not fight back. He trembled and raised his hands instinctively, trying to block death falling on his head. A black light flashed in his body at that moment. The black ray of light that had helped him to avoid death last time appeared again. It surrounded his entire body and turned into a spherical ball of light. This was his last resort. Nonetheless, the giant battle axe surrounded by the numerous wailing angry spirits continued slashing downwards. The moment the axe touched the black light, it shattered. It didn't even manage to stop the axe for a fraction of a second. The light might as well have never existed, allowing the battle axe to slice through and head towards Bai Tu, who sank into despair. Bai Tu was about to die. Su Ming's hatred for this person filled his entire body. Yet the moment the axe was about to fall on him, the space before Bai Tu twisted, and a person in black robes walked out. He raised his right hand and a brilliant light flashed around it. A purple shield appeared and clashed against the approaching battle axe. Booming sounds shook the sky and earth. The shield in the newcomer's hand shattered. He retreated and grabbed Bai Tu, who was at that moment filled with despair and excitement. They quickly withdrew until they were 1,000 feet away before stopping. The person's face was hidden under his black robes, and there was no way of telling whether he was injured. Su Ming smiled wanly. The moment the battle axe was blocked, the broken statue of the god of Berserkers formed by the blood of the wings of moon reached its limit. It disappeared into the air like a large cloud of red dust scattered into the wind. He felt a force charging towards him, and his body tumbled backwards, turning into an arc before he crashed on Dark Dragon Mountain. He coughed out blood and trembled. Since he was no longer capable of suppressing his injuries, they all appeared like a tidal wave crashing into his body, including the ones he had sustained when he forcefully increased his level of cultivation. His vision became blurry. That was the feeling of death. Ming bit his tongue with his remaining strength and forced himself to stay awake. He struggled to sit up and looked at the person in black robes standing before Baitu in the distance. My lord! There was lingering fear on Baitu's face. He knew that if the person in black robes had not arrived when he did, he would have certainly died. Looks like I've underestimated the tribes located at the borders of the alliance of the Western region. First, the two people in the Transcendence realm from the weak branch of Miao Man could combine their Qi and use 3 attacks with the power of the later stages of the Transcendence realm. Now, I see a young lad like you training the pure fire Berserker art. You even managed to summon Xing's broken statue. That attack just now, if it were not because your power is too weak and could not provide enough strength, I would not have been able to withstand it. The person in black robes spoke with a hoarse voice. His body trembled slightly, and there was lingering fear on his face. If it were not because Baitu was still useful to him and because the power of the axe from the broken god was not enough, he would not have come forward to save Baitu. Blood trickled down from his lips, which went unnoticed because of the black robes covering him. Bone Sacrifice Realm. You killed Jingnan. The elder stood on another summit. He no longer had any strength left to fight. He spoke unhurriedly as he looked at the person in black robes. They are, after all, from the great tribe of Miao Man. With how protective Miao Man is of their own, killing them would just be troublesome. The person in black robes cast a glance at the elder, and he laughed suddenly. His laughter was hoarse and ghastly. He looked at the elder and brought out a black plate from his bosom with his right hand. There was a complete spine carved on the plate, and it was exuding wisps of cold air. He threw it, and the plate charged towards the elder before it floated before him. When the elder saw the plate, his expression changed, and he looked incredibly sour. Besides looking for the ruins of Fire Berserker here, I also came to find you. Mo, you did not let us down. If you died in Baitu's hands, then you wouldn't be one of us. But you must pay the price for the mistake you committed in the past. As the person in black robes spoke, he retrieved the black plate and no longer paid any attention to Mo Sang. Instead, he walked towards Ming. I didn't think I'd be able to find an heir of the Fire Berserkers here. Ming let out a light sigh. His expression was calm. Even without the presence of the person in black robes, he would not have any chance to recover. There was only death waiting for him. He did not even look at the person in black robes, but turned his eyes towards the elder standing on another summit. His gaze was gentle. He had already done everything he could. This is the end. I'm sorry. I couldn't take care of him properly. The elder fell silent. He think that what had happened was entirely due to him accidentally joining that frightening group of people in the past. He closed his eyes bitterly. Yet at the moment the elder closed his eyes, his body suddenly jolted. A yellow light suddenly appeared on his body, and in an instant, it grew so bright it blinded everyone's eyes. A presence that did not belong to the world appeared, erupting forth from the elder's body with a lofty and mighty air. The moment the presence appeared, the person in black robes who was walking towards Ming stopped and turned his head back abruptly. There was a hint of amazement and shock on his face, which was hidden underneath the black robes. He saw the piercing yellow light erupting forth from Mo Sang's body. As the light glowed, it gathered on Mo Sang's clavicle. A muffled boom echoed in the sky, and a small yellow flag the size of a palm flew out from Mo Sang's clavicle before coming to float 7 inches above his head. Mo Sang trembled. He opened his eyes abruptly and lifted his head. When he saw the small yellow flag, he was stunned. You! Why are you here? The appearance of the small flag threw the elder into disbelief. He had thought that this thing would never appear in his life, because the person who had given it to him had fused the flag into his blood. The elder had tried countless times in the past, but he could not sense it. He could only vaguely feel its presence. The elder was stunned. He took in a sharp breath and abruptly looked at Ming. There was an absent-minded look in his eyes, as if he had just understood something. He struggled up and grabbed the small flag. The moment the elder held the flag in his hands, it shot up to at least 30 feet tall. It was no longer a flag, but a giant flagpole. Its color also instantly turned to black from yellow, but the flag banner was not completely black. There were stars shining within, a brilliant sky shining with stars. That sky was unfamiliar. It was not the night sky seen by all the members of the Berserker tribe when they raised their heads. It belonged instead to a place far away. Perhaps the people there would find this sight familiar when they raised their heads. The heart of the person in black robes trembled furiously. A feeling that something bad was about to happen turned into a strong sense of danger within him. It made his expression change, and he quickly moved forward, wanting to stop Mo Sang's actions. Yet he could not stop Mo Sang from lifting up the giant flagpole and standing on the summit. He stood on the peak of the mountain and stretched out his right hand, causing the flagpole to lie horizontally. When the elder swung it to his left, it stirred up wind, making the entire banner spread open like a wave. When the person in black robes got closer, Mo Sang had already drawn a circle around his body with the flagpole in his right hand. The banner danced in the air, and once it gently touched Mo Sang's face, he swung it in the air, and it changed once again. It became larger, and in the blink of an eye, the stars on the banner suddenly started glowing incredibly bright. The banner even flew from the elder's hands and started rotating on its own in the air. It became larger, wider, and in the span of a breath, the banner became as large as a patch of sky filled with stars. As it danced in the air, the colors of the sky and earth changed, the wind and clouds tumbled backwards, and with a cry that reverberated through the air, the banner flew into the sky, and their sky was replaced by the gigantic banner. The night sky was suddenly replaced by the starry sky on the banner, causing the night sky to change in a heartbeat. This was an art that changed the sky. This was an art that made the night sky disappear by replacing it with the starry sky in the banner. Right then, Su Ming was stunned. He lifted his head and looked at the sky. That starry sky above was completely unfamiliar to him. Bai Tu was also dumbfounded as he trembled. He could not see any familiar stars. The night sky in his eyes was foreign. This was a patch of sky he had never seen before. None of the stars in the sky were familiar. The starry sky at night was a sight that everyone saw every day since they were young. Each and every one of the stars would bring about familiarity to those who saw them. The distance between the stars and the pictures they form would slowly be engraved inside people's memories. If, someday, that were to suddenly change, then everyone would immediately notice it. That sort of unfamiliarity would make panic rise in their hearts. The person in black robes trembled furiously as he looked at the unfamiliar starry sky. Even if he was a powerful berserker at the bone sacrifice realm, the terror did not diminish, because he knew certain things. The sky of another world. This is the sky of another world. The moment the starry sky appeared, the elder coughed out blood and staggered backwards. Nonetheless, he quickly shouted to Su Ming, who was staring at the sky with a dumbfounded expression. Su Ming, remember this sky. When he finished shouting out his words, the elder fell, completely drained of his strength. Su Ming jolted, then looked at the unfamiliar stars in the sky. The sky suddenly lit up with a strong burst of starlight. The stars flashed brilliantly and started moving. Right before everyone's eyes, the light from the stars joined together and formed a faint outline of a person. The person was so huge that he seemed to cover the entire sky. As the light from the stars grew brighter, the person's face also became clearer. It was a middle-aged man. The moment the light from the stars created the face on the person, Su Ming shuddered and disbelief appeared on his face. He stood there, completely stunned. The face of the gigantic person formed by the light was greatly similar to Su Ming's own. Chapter 110. The wind blew away all traces. When the starlight drew out the outline of the face, everyone present saw that the person had his eyes closed. In the air, the person in black robes let out a low growl and withdrew in one swift move. He charged towards Bai Tu and grabbed him, as if he was about to leave the place with him. He could feel a presence that made him horrified, coming from the unfamiliar sky. The presence made all the hairs on his body rise. That feeling was one he had not experienced for many years. At that moment, he no longer had any desire to catch Su Ming. There was only one thought in his head: he had to quickly get out of this place. Yet the moment he grabbed Bai Tu and was about to leave, the person formed by the light coming from the replaced stars in the sky opened his eyes. His gaze held an oppressive might and aloofness. It was just one glance, and a boom sounded in Baitu's head. That look that came from the person in the sky gave him a feeling that the person had already surpassed the northern fallen god of berserkers he had summoned by sacrificing his life. Who is he? The person in black robes was petrified. The fear in him made him not care about anything else. A large amount of black mist appeared from underneath his feet. He grabbed Baitu and they hastily disappeared into the air. The moment the person in black robes tried to disappear with Baitu, the person that looked rather similar to Qiú Mó in the sky raised his right hand. He did not clench his fist, but closed his fingers together and pushed down towards the earth. The moment he pressed his palm, a wind that blew downwards stirred up. That wind blew past the place where the person in black robes disappeared with Baitu immediately. That space in the air started twisting, and the person in black robes and Baitu were forcefully dragged back from their escape. The very instant they were dragged out, Baitu let out a scream, and his arms were torn into pieces of flesh and blood. The person in black robes stood in front of Baitu and coughed out blood. His face, which was hidden under the black robe, was filled with terror and panic. What is with his power? This has far surpassed the bone sacrifice realm. This person from another world, could he be at the Berserker soul realm? The palm strike coming from the sky may have seemed slow, but in reality, it traveled down really quickly in the direction where the person in black robes and Baitu were. Booming sounds reverberated in the air. The moment the palm pressed down, the person in black robes let out a shrill cry. He grabbed Baitu, who was standing behind him, and once he infused some power into him, threw him towards the incoming palm. Baitu could not even resist. The moment his body touched the palm, the power that was infused into him by the person in black robes exploded, causing his entire body to burst apart with a bang. A strong force came forth and shook the entire area, but the palm did not stop for even a moment. It was as if that force was nothing. It went through the force caused by Baitu's explosion and rushed toward the person in black robes. The eyes of the person in black robes were bloodshot. He could not escape. As he lifted his arms quickly, the 13th piece of his spine let out a great power that fused into his arms. He pushed at the palm coming towards him. A booming sound echoed once again in the sky. The person in black robes let out a sharp and pained cry. His arms, hidden under those black sleeves, were immediately ripped into pieces. Even his black robe was torn apart, revealing the face he had kept hidden. It was an old man with a black picture on his body. That picture looked like an eye, and on his back, an old and aged presence came from the 13th piece of his spine. I can tell, that is a will that has been left on that instrument for many years. It is just a thought, and yet it is already this strong. That person. He must be an incredibly powerful berserker in the other world. The old man coughed out blood. As his arms trembled, they were torn into bloody ribbons. He knew that death was hanging right over his head. As his body tumbled backwards, he struggled to lift up his right hand and grab at the air. A beast skin appeared out of nowhere in his hand. There was silver fur on that beast skin. It looked incredibly valuable. At that moment, the old man took the beast skin and wore it. At the same time, he also started making signs with his hands, drawing out a blood-red picture on his body with his 10 blooded fingers. That picture was the same as the berserker mark on his body. It was an eye. Beast form transformation. As the old man growled, silver light shone brilliantly on his body. In an instant, an incredibly strange change happened to his body. After the beast skin was placed on his body, it started spreading to cover its entirety under that silver light. Right before Qiú Ming's eyes, he turned into a ferocious silver beast. That ferocious beast was like a bull, but it only had one eye. Its entire body was covered in silver fur. There was lightning flashing on the 2 horns on its head. At the moment, all the power from the bone sacrifice realm was fused into the 13th piece of the beast's spine under the silver beast skin. The beast let out a roar and crashed into the incoming palm. The palm's incoming assault caused the beast to tremble when it touched the silver bull beast. The 2 horns on its head immediately shattered, and the silver fur on its body fell away from its body as if it was shaved away. When all of its fur was scraped off, a layer of the beast's skin was torn away from its body. A light flashed, and the bull disappeared. The old man's body materialized once again. His face was pale, and his eyes showed despair. As he coughed out blood, the palm pressed on his body. His arms burst apart, and his legs too disappeared. His torso was the only thing left, but on his back, the 13th piece of his spine jolted, and with a boom, it shattered. When the bone shattered, the old man let out an ear-shattering cry of pain. There was also despair in his voice. He knew that his berserker bone was crushed by this hand. From now on, even if he survived, he would no longer be a powerful berserker in the bone sacrifice realm. It's just a thought, but it's so strong. He smiled brokenly and closed his eyes. Yet the moment he did so, their world, which had experienced the string of battles, started to become unstable. Now, as the palm pushed down, the space around the old man started cracking. These cracks started spreading outwards quickly, and in an instant, they shattered like a mirror that fell to the ground. This was the shattering of space. There was space between the sky and earth, but it was invisible and no one could see it. Yet if it was to suffer an incredibly strong attack, then the shattering of space would appear for an instant, though it would rapidly recover on its own afterwards. However, the moment it shattered, a void that swallowed everything would be formed. That void had incredibly powerful absorbing powers that could suck in everything around it. At that moment, as the space shattered above Dark Mountain, a void appeared. It was a black vortex. The moment it appeared, the person in black robes was the first to be forcefully taken in, causing him to avoid that palm strike that made him fall into despair. At the same moment, a large amount of gravel fell from all the mountains nearby. Dried up plants, black snow, and all the other things flew up and were sucked into the void. Ming could no longer move. When that strong absorbing power appeared, his body was pulled towards the void. He was sucked into the void along with the gravel and plants. The moment he was sucked in, he saw the elder lying on the other summit. He had his eyes closed, and there was no way of knowing whether he was alive. He was also sucked into the void. That was the last scene Ming saw. After that, darkness fell upon his eyes. He lost consciousness. The void only appeared for the span of a few breaths before it closed up and disappeared. The world returned to normal. The starry sky from the other world in the sky also gradually disappeared. The gigantic person, too, slowly faded away. Cracking sounds reverberated through the air, and the black flagpole turned rapidly back to yellow before turning into ashes that were blown away by the wind. A thunderous boom reverberated through the land, and cracks appeared on the ground. All of the remaining black snow disappeared. A gigantic outline of a palm appeared on the land. As the thunderous booms echoed in the air, one of the 5 summits on Dark Mountain crumbled, and its dust scattered into the air. Everything gradually returned to silence. In a patch of forest that was not affected, a small monkey dashed forward with anxiety. It climbed up Dark Dragon Mountain, where Ming was taken in by the void. On the summit, it looked at the sky and let out screeches that sounded as if they were calling out to him. The screeches lasted for a long time until the little monkey looked at the land in the distance with a bitter face. It could see the other side of the mountain. In its memories, Ming had once mentioned that he wanted to see what the other side looked like. Gradually, the little monkey climbed down the mountain. From then onwards, no one saw a flash of red running around the forest ever again. The night of the blood-red moon that appeared once every few years also never appeared again, and neither did the wings of the moon. After the battle, Dark Mountain, which had 5 summits, now looked as if someone had sliced off one of its 5 fingers cleanly, turning it into a mountain with only 4 summits. Black Flame Mountain was also missing its peak. It ended. Windstream Tribe was in a state of disarray. When Jing Nan and Wen Yang returned, these 2 powerful berserkers of the Transcendence Realm chose to isolate themselves to train. They kept their lips sealed tight about the things that had happened in Windstream Mountain. All the matters within the tribe, no matter great or small, were handed over to Shahai and the others. Even the training of Yi Wang and the others were set aside. Their injuries were too grave. If it were not because their enemy had seemed to be holding back due to fear of something, the 2 of them would not have been able to return. Dark Mountain Tribe became an affiliated tribe of Windstream, and the 7th tribe located outside the Mudstone City. It was also the weakest tribe. The only berserkers within the tribe were the tribe leader, Bei Ling, and the handicapped head of the guards. The elder did not come back. Lei Chen did not come back. Su Ming too did not come back. Amid their sadness, Dark Mountain tribe sent some people back to Dark Mountain after a few days had passed. They found the corpses of their people, Nan Song and Shan Hen, and relayed what they saw regarding the 4 summits of Dark Mountain to their tribe members waiting back home. Surrounded by grief, they held a funeral for their deceased tribe members, which coincidentally fell on the same day as the promise made between Su Ming and Bai Ling. They did not know about Shan Hen's betrayal. He was buried together with his other tribe members. On the day of the funeral, rain fell together with snow from the sky. It was very cold. Standing outside Dark Mountain tribe in the freezing snow and rain was a girl in white. She stood there quietly, and touched the bone earrings hanging off her ears. It was unknown whether there were tears falling as snow and rain trickled down her face. End of Arc 1. Chapters 106 through 110 show that Su Ming is not just a master of herbs, but a master of his own destiny. He has crossed a threshold that few in Han Mountain City ever reach, and the tribal leaders are starting to realize that Grandmaster Mo is far more dangerous than they imagined. Thank you for listening to Pursuit of the Truth on Panda Audiobooks. Who do you think will be the first to try and stop Su Ming's ascent? Let us know in the comments. Join us next time for chapters 111 to 115, where the mountain's true face is revealed. Like, subscribe, and keep pursuing the truth.